Okay, cool. So we're going to talk about angles and their measurements, and today specifically in degrees. So this should be review, some of it will be new to you. So some angle terminology here to start off with. So we're going to draw ourselves a nice angle. All right, nice might not be quite what happened, but all right, so most of you guys should be familiar with that point. That's the vertex, right? We should know that from geometry. But then what might be new to you is we are going to pay attention to the direction that the angle is going. And the side that it starts on is what we call the initial side. And then when it ends on is the terminal side. Which makes sense, right? Initial, terminal, not crazy, right? So that's just kind of a generic angle. But what's going to happen quite often here in trig is we're going to talk about it in the x and y coordinate plane. Right, so we got x and y. Okay, so same stuff, just that we could have an angle over here, and we're going to make it go that way. So this is the initial side. And this is the terminal. And this is what we call standard position. Okay, so when we're in the coordinate plane and we want an angle in standard position, this is what it looks like. It starts on the x-axis on the positive part, and then we go around. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is just kind of the angles that are kind of the basis for a lot of things, the ones that we're going to run into a lot. So the first one, I always start with my radius. If we go all the way around, how many degrees is that? 360. Yeah, 360. And if it goes halfway, it's, yeah. Right? You're like, I know this stuff. Okay, so then, I know this is going to be a shocker. It's a quarter of it, 90. Now it's going to be how well can you draw fractions or parts of a circle. So we're going to go to 45 next, and what I like to do is I kind of draw in my 90 a little bit, and then I cut it in half. Ooh, that was a squiggly. So this is 45. By the way, I'm getting over a cold, so slash the flu. I don't know what it is. I don't have COVID though. I got tested. So my voice is gonna just not be nice. And I should have done 60 next, I just realized. But in my mind, so then with 60 is a little bit harder to draw. Because what we're gonna do is try to I kind of look at it like divide into the thirds, right? So this is 60 degrees. And then the last one is 30. Okay. So those angles in degrees are going to be the most common ones that you're going to run into. Okay? And really, the rest of the circle is going to be based off of those as we go around. Okay? All right, can I move on? Okay, so coterminal angles. So coterminal angles are angles, oops, that have the same initial, and terminal sides. So you may be asking yourself, well, wait a second, how can other angles have the same initial and terminal side? Well, we're going beyond 360 and we're also going negative, okay? So positive angles are angles that go counterclockwise. Oh, and I just realized I was going to draw a little thing for coterminal. Sorry, backing up. Draw yourself a little X and Y axis there. So there's my initial and terminal side. And so we'll say, you know, usually it's about like 45, right? That's what we would consider our kind of base one. But then as I go around, I can start here and I can go all the way around and back. That is coterminal with it. And I could also start here and go negative and go around. So there's several ways. So as long as you start on the initial and end on the terminal, those are going to be coterminal angles. Does that kind of make sense? And we'll practice this, yeah, Kate.
So what's the difference between the big one and the small one? Like the negative, like I don't understand.
Oh, you know what? I drew it the wrong direction. You're totally, yeah, that doesn't make sense, huh? Hold on. Hold on, I'm struggling. There we go. That's what I meant. Sorry about that. Thank you. Okay, so and I know we haven't talked about negative angles, but we're gonna do that next. So negative angles go clockwise, which is the next page. So once you've got your funky little drawing, which is hard to see, I know. So negative angles are angles that go clockwise. So we'll make this a little bit easier on this one. So that's a positive angle, and that's a negative angle. So they're going in the other directions, okay? That one's negative, this one's positive. Okay, so I'm gonna hit pause on the video for. Okay, so if we want to find, for example, we want to find some coterminal angles. So I want you guys to think about how I could go about this. So we'll say this is my angle I'm looking at. I'm purposely not telling you what it is. And I want, when it's coterminal, I want a positive and negative of it. So if I start on my initial side, and I'm going to go around until it stops on the terminal, how do you guys think I could find that measurement?
You did the angle plus 360.
Angle plus 360. Yep. Because we went a whole chunk, right? We went a whole way around. That's 360 plus whatever we have. Okay, so that's going to give us our positive one. What if I go the negative direction? How could I find that negative coterminal angle? Yeah, Tika, what do you think?
Or the angle, or wait.
Yeah, no, you're right.
360 minus the angle.
Yeah, or the angle minus 360, because we actually do want the negative, right? So you're either going to add or subtract 360. That's all it comes down to, okay? So for 60 degrees here, to find our positive one, we're going to add 360. And I get 420. Oh, I was waiting for the giggles. I got a few. Okay. I know there's certain numbers the math teacher should never use, right? And that's one of them. Just happen to be. All right, and then I do 60 minus 360. Because I do want the negative of it, right? I'm taking 360 away from it, so I get a negative 300. Good. Not too bad, right? So you guys go ahead and try B. All right, so for the 270, what's the positive coterminal angle to it? 630, good. What's the negative? Negative 90, good. Okay. All right, so some reminder on quadrants on a graph. So, okay guys, shush. So this is quadrant 1, this is quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Okay, so we go counterclockwise around. So when we're dealing with degrees, we're out of just sticking to nice positive ones, right? I feel like I've kind of emphasized that. And so we're going to go negative, we're going to go positive, we're going to go even beyond 360. But so for the generic positive ones, 1 is between 0 and 90. 2 is 90 to 180. And yes, the ones that like are on the X and Y axis, I'm using those twice. They don't really have a quadrant, they're just kind of, they're on the X or Y axis, right? 3 is 180 to 270. And then 4 is 270 to 360. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do for example B here is we're going to draw the angles in standard position, meaning starting on the x-axis, the positive x-axis, and going around, and then we're going to name what quadrant it's in, or state it, whatever. Okay, so 210. So I'm going to draw my x and y axis here. Okay, so we're always going to start on the positive x. So on how I like to think about this, and everybody kind of has their own thing. Yeah, Kate?
Is standard position always positive?
No, it's just that it's starting on the positive x-axis. Like it's just starting on the right-hand side. Yeah. Yeah, good question. Okay, so how I like to think about this, and you do what works for you and logic to your brain. This is how my brain works with it. I know 210 is more than 180, but it's less than 270, right? And I'm going to say it's kind of closer to 180. So what I do is, all right, I want to know how far from 180 it is. So I'm going to do 210. I'm going to subtract 180. And I'm like, all right, well, that's 30 degrees, right? So I'm going to go 30 degrees beyond 180. And I'm approximating, right? We're not getting like super crazy technical about it. And I'm showing that from there to there, that's my 210. Does that make sense? Okay. You could also go from 270 and like go backwards from the 270. It's whatever makes sense to you. That's how my brain works. What quadrant did it land in? Great, good. Okay, so we're in quadrant 3. All right. Any questions on that one? Okay, all right, so for B here, so we're going negative. So that means I'm going to go, starting from the right-hand side, I'm going to go clockwise. So again, I kind of use 180 for this one because it's less than 180. So I actually know, I know it's going to end up down here because I'm going to start here, I'm going to go, but it's not going to hit 180. So it's going to be somewhere also here in quadrant 3. But I kind of want to figure out how far, right? Because I want to make a good estimate. So just like I did last time, I'm going to find the difference. But this time, I don't know, I'm going to do 180 minus 135. So I get 45. So that means I'm going to approximate my 45 degrees right there and show that it's going negative with my arrow there. And I landed in quadrant 3. So this is negative 135. You could also think of it as kind of mirroring, right? We know 135 would be over here, and then just mirror down to go negative. All right, so the last one, for at least this page, 765. Okay, so it's clearly bigger than 360, right? So we're gonna have to go around the circle multiple times, but I need to know how many times I need to go around. Logan, what do you think I would do?
A little more than 20 because it's close to 720, which is 2 rotations.
Yeah, good. So we know it's gonna be 2 rotations plus a little. So to kind of do it a little bit more precise, so I like to figure out like how many times. So I'm gonna subtract 360, until I get a small number. And when I do that, I get 45. So that means I'm gonna go around twice. I've got my 2 rotations here. With the 45 left over. So 2 full rotations and then another 45. So I'm going to draw my 45. And I'm going to show I'm starting here and I'm going around 1, 2 to my 45. So on your, we're gonna do it in just a second. All right, are there any questions on that one or any of those? Drawing them out. Okay, so I am pretty forgiving except on like the angles, like if it's not perfectly 45, I'm not gonna mark you wrong. But if you're like clearly closer to one axis than another and that's not where it should be, we'll have to figure that out and you'll have to fix it, okay? All right, go ahead and go on the next page here. So similar thing, but just kind of going the other direction. So this time I've given you a drawing of the angle. It's also given you kind of an angle to go off of, kind of like we did, but we figured it out. So for this one, I'm starting here. First, is my angle going to be positive or negative?
Negative. Positive.
It's going to be positive. It's going counterclockwise, so it's positive. So what I like to do is I'm like, all right, I go around once, and I didn't quite go around twice, right? So I know it's going to be 360 plus something. Or we could think about, all right, well, what if we went around 2 full times and then took away 80? So it's whatever makes sense to you. So for me, it was the take away 80. So I went 360 twice, but then took 80 away from it. And so I got 640. You could go, say, 360 plus, I don't know, my brain's not working today. Hold on. Plus 280. This also gets you the same thing, okay? So I want you guys to try B. See what you think B would be. All right, Logan, what do you think? Oh, you have a question? Yeah, what's the question?
I was going to convert between radians and
Okay, so for this one, so we're going clockwise, so we're going to have a negative angle, right? So we're gonna go around once, twice, then I go another 180, and then how much more do I go after that 180?
Oh, you did do it right.
Just a 50, right? Yeah. That's how I thought of this one. So I had, oops, my 360 twice. Plus, I'm running out of room, plus my 180, plus the 50 to get me where I landed. So I get a negative 950. Any questions on that one? Yeah, what's up?
Oh, when you play Maryland.
Oh, that's fine. Did you still get the negative 950? Oh. Okay, so if we did, all right, so if we went around 3 times, it would take me all the way back here, and then I'd have to subtract 90 and subtract 40. Right, so 360 times 3 minus 90 minus the 40, and I would get negative 950.
Why do you minus 90?
Because, so if we go all the way around, and I'm here, right? I have to go this 90 and the 40 to get back to the terminal side. So, because I'm starting here, that's 1, that's 2, and if I go beyond it to go 3, I have to go backwards by subtracting the 90 and the 40.
Oh, okay.
Is that, yeah? Okay, cool. All right. Any other questions? Yeah, and that's another way to do it, you guys. So if you like are like, all right, well, what if I go a full third rotation, and then you just have to kind of subtract what you need to do to go backwards to it, okay? So there's several ways you guys can do it, which is why showing your work like this is helpful to me so I can see where you went wrong, okay? If you make a mistake. All right, so last thing is actually honestly, some review from geometry, because I just taught it to my geometry kids like a week ago or 2. So complementary angles. Anybody remember what complementary angles are? Yeah, look, what are they?
90 minus the initial angle.
Yeah, so it's just 2 angles that add a 90. Yeah. So 2 angles. That add to 90 degrees. And these angles do not necessarily have to be connected to each other. They often are, but they don't have to be, meaning they don't have to have the same vertex. Supplementary angles are 2 angles that add to 180. And these are also on my poster. There's like that dark blue poster over there. It's got complementary, supplementary, linear pair, adjacent, and vertical angles. All right, so here's the deal though. With complementary and supplementary angles, when we're getting beyond our basic ones that are 90 or less, can I have an angle that is greater than 90 be complement to it? No, right? Because that would be greater than 90, so that doesn't work. So sometimes you're going to get some that don't work, okay? So for 10 degrees here, to find the complement, you're just going to do 90 minus the 10 degrees. You're going to be like, sweet, my complement's 80 to that. And then you can do the same thing to find the supplement, but use 180. Nothing too crazy on that. So we got a complement and supplement. But for B here, 145, can 145 have a complement? No. So this is for the complement, there is none. So you can say NR for not relevant or no, whatever. Yeah.
What if it was a negative angle, then would it work?
Good question. So we usually don't do complementary and supplementary with negative angles.
Okay.
Yeah. even though technically by the definition of complementary and supplementary, we could, we often don't.
Oh.
Yeah. But we could get a supplement, right? So we could do 180 minus 145. All right, so that is it. This assignment is